Welcome back to Link by Golf, folks. I'm your host, Ross McGuire. This is part two of the episode with Stevie Carmichael. I hope you enjoy it. We talk about Wentworth, Stevie's work at TrackMan, and then we also talk about my new putting technique, which Stevie wasn't sure about whether I was doing the pole vault or actually using a broomstick putter. So let's go over to the show and hear from Stevie again.
Yeah, it was really quite simple, Ross. I played a lot, and it's a big thief of time. Of course, even though I wasn't playing midweek, I was away working, and then away all weekend. And I have twin boys who were born in 2004, and just took the view that I just wasn't willing to put in the time. I didn't want to be away from them, and was fairly recently married at the time, and just decided that was my thing. And to be honest, I guess there's a bit of ego in it. My ego didn't want me to turn up and shoot 78.
Right.
I didn't want to do that, and I guess if my heart wasn't in it, that was exactly what was going to happen, and I didn't fancy that. No. So, and then, you do that for a year, and then a year turns into 2 years, and then before I had 1 year, I played in 2013. So I stopped playing in 2004. Always remember it, I got a handicap audit and investigation and got a very snooty letter saying you've not put in any cards and we're going to lapse your handicap, and as a Category 1 golfer, this is a disgrace. And I wrote back a nice letter at the time. Might have been just at the start of emails. I wrote back an email saying, I've not put any cards because I don't have any cards. And they're like, no, it's not possible. You must have played. And I said, well, I haven't played. And after doing this circular conversation for about 3 months, they settled on the fact that I hadn't played any golf. So I have one of the lowest lapsed handicap ever. I lapsed my handicap from +4. I just didn't play at all, just complete cold turkey.
That's on, just for folk listening, the old system getting to +4 is a pretty decent effort, right?
Yeah, the year I played the majority of my golf off +3, +4. I did get to +5 at one point, but only for a week. I think.
What a tragedy.
I know. Although it's not the lowest handicap I've ever had, because when I came back to play, so I played 1 year in 2013, and played bits and pieces. I won the match play championship at Cardiff, and I was okay. I was like I was suddenly a pretty competent club golfer, even after 9 years off. But I didn't really get back into it. I got back into it with COVID. I was a COVID golfer. I started working with TrackMan, and I got slightly embarrassed a couple of times when I went round the world. I remember going to Longchamp driving range in Paris and meeting the golf pro there, who I had played in an international match at London Links, and he had told various guys that over the years about how he'd played Scottish guys. It was incredibly windy, and we were hitting it head height, and they couldn't compete at all just because they weren't used to it. So I beat this guy like 7-6 round London Links, and we beat them like 23-1 or something. It was an absolute landslide. And he was telling the guys this, and he said to me, "And how's your golf now?" And I said to him, "Oh, I don't play anymore. I've not played since 2004. And the kind of look on his face where he was like, it was a mixture of shock and disgust. And I was like, I really need to play. That's, it's not, this guy, he was like...
I've had a conversation about that over the last 2 times we've played, Steve.
Yeah.
I think
he was affronted. He was like, what on earth? So I started playing again. But where I was going with that was the new handicap system. I didn't really know much about how it worked, but I put in one card. I shot 1 under round Gales from the Open Championship qualifying tees. So it was a good round, but it's right up. Yeah, but it was it was fast and bumpy, and my short game has never deserted me, even in all the years that I didn't play. So I got round in 1 under, and they gave me as my first handicap +7. as my first handicap back. So my first medal I played at Gales because of this court. I'm sure you're familiar with the system, but you have a course handicap and a playing handicap. Yeah. So my first medal at Gales, my handicap was +8. My handicap on the day was +8. I shot 73 for a net 81. And I've steadily been kind of bumping it back up since from there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was just I mean, there's a limit to how many it can go up in a year as well. So, I mean, the only positive thing is for anybody playing with me, I'm very easy to win a tenner off if I've got a handicap of +7 or +8. That's for sure.
I don't know. I'd look at the other way around based on how you were playing the last couple of times, but the part you've slipped into there, Stevie, is TrackMan.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how did that TrackMan journey start? What led you down that path?
I think just with anything at all, there's an element of luck, isn't there? And it was 2019. So I kind of, there's a shelf life. I worked in finance. There's a shelf life to that, and but I didn't. I'm not a rich guy, so I needed to do something. I needed to work. So I knew somebody that knew the guys at TrackMan, and the business division that I'm involved in and run for TrackMan is the driving range side of the business, which is very much a business to business type sale. Uh-huh. It's, I don't unfortunately spend a lot of time talking about spin loft or spin axis and D-plane and things. It's more spreadsheets and return on investment, which was right up my street. And I've done that. Yeah. So that's 5 years. Yeah. 5 years I've been there now, and it's been fantastic. It's I'm actually there just now. I'm at headquarters in Copenhagen just now, and it's. I mean, we've actually just opened the new TrackMan Innovation Centre out here. I mean, it's if you're a golfer, this is Willy Wonka stuff. I mean, it's just unbelievable what these guys. I mean, it's incredible. The level of detail, the level of innovation, the level of research and development is. I mean, there's many imitators, but there truly is nothing like it. It's quite incredible, the TrackMan journey, and it's a family-owned business, TrackMan.
Yeah,
it's been incredible.
I've certainly never used a real TrackMan in the sense of having one sitting on my bay, i.e. behind me on a tour, but I've used, I guess, only a couple of TrackMan ranges. There's one out near Woking, and then I was lucky enough that you invited me to. I don't actually know if you invited me, but I certainly brought myself along to Wentworth, and you were there, and were kind enough to take me around.
Yeah,
I was really impressed with the setup. Yeah,
but the individual TrackMan units. I mean, the level of detail from them. I think I might get this slightly wrong, but it's certainly 40 plus parameters they give you about the as my friend Hugh Marr refers to it, the conversation between the club and the ball, and it's quite incredible. Really, I'll bring mine the next time we play. You can have a go at it. You'll be amazed at the stuff it spits out. I don't use mine very much because my swing's so slow now it depresses me. I maybe use it for the putting. That'll keep me happy if I could.
Well, you could be the calibration for the putting side.
I was laughing to myself the other day when I hold yet another putt for par, and I thought, I don't know why I can't decide why I'm good at putting. I don't know if I'm just better at reading the greens or something, because it's not, I don't have a perfect putting stroke or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there's a mixture of I read the greens well, and I also, whether it's misplaced or not, I kind of believe I'm going to hole it every time I hit the ball with my putter. I've never bought into that. I'm just going to try and get it close. I'm like, no, I'm going to try and hole it from wherever I am.
And the thing that's interesting is, taking a wee quick diversion from the TrackMan part here, I don't observe you doing a lot of green reading in the sense of, to me it looks like you're eyeballing it and you go, I know this, I've got it.
No, I'm definitely doing that by stealth. I've got that Rain Man thing going on. So the whole time I'm walking onto the green or I'm watching people putt, I'm giving the thing a heavy scan. It's like I've got one of those LiDAR drones in my noggin, and it's checking out the topography, because I definitely, I mean, when I used to play, I would walk around and view the putt from every side, but I wouldn't make a big show of it. I would do it as the game was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it wasn't right, it's my turn, I'm going to circle around the thing here like, you know, somebody stalking his prey. But I'm taking in all the information as I go, definitely. So by the time I'm looking that last time at it, with that kind of 1,000-yard stare that I give it, it's to make sure that my decision's right. I've done all the heavy lifting in the green reading by the time I get there.
I'm still waiting for that advice, by the way, from re-putting. It's led to a slight change in between left-handed putting and right-handed putting. I won't go down that story completely, but I'm still waiting for the parts of spoiled. But we can figure that out the next time.
Are you not going to tell your listeners that last time we played, I thought you were going pole vaulting because of the length of the putt you brought with you, know?
It might have had a broom handle on it, yes. What did I tell you though, Stevie? 10% of the PGA Tour is using a broomstick putter.
You also told me that you almost cracked a rib trying to re-grip it though, so that didn't make me too keen to try it, that's for sure.
I could literally hardly move ever trying to get this grip on it. It was frightening.
As you've seen, but nobody that hasn't played with me, I will have seen. I had a putter made for me.
Yeah.
So I turned 50 last week, as you know, and I decided for my birthday to buy myself a putter. So I got one made for me exactly how I wanted it by a guy in, I think he's in Ohio or Utah or somewhere. And it's funny having a putter that is basically exactly what you want your putter to be. I mean, I've always putted with something that looks like a Ping Answer. You know, there's Scotty Camerons for a period of time, or Odysseys, but they basically just look like a Ping Answer, or a Ping Answer 2, actually.
Uh-huh.
But this one just looks like a Ping Answer 2 as well. But it's got that very modest thing of having my name on it as well. So takes a few quid off the resale value, unfortunately.
Well, I don't know. You're certainly taking any value off its value, that's for sure, with the way you're putting.
No, it's going nowhere. But that's nice. That's really, and I actually changed all my clubs. I think I was telling you, for all the years I've played, I think I've only had, I think that's like the second set of brand new clubs I've had ever. So I got a set from Ping when I was at uni, because they supported us on that long-term loan thing that they used to do for amateurs. And then I got some from Callaway, but they were out the tour truck. They were some poor guy in the seniors tour. I whipped them off him in the tour truck one time. So this is like the second set of new clubs I've ever had.
That's incredible.
Aye, but I've still got my Broon wedge in there from 1996. It's still hanging in there for sure.
We need to explain what the Broon wedge is, Stevie. What is the Broon wedge?
To be honest, the Broon wedge is stolen patter. So the Broon wedge is a brown wedge. So it's a beryllium copper I2 lob wedge. The only reason I call it a Broon wedge is A, because it's brown, and B, because I remember. Do you remember Sam Cairns?
Yeah. Sam's the pro at Covell Park, my old stomping ground.
Oh, is he? I had my first ever hole-in-one at Covell Park.
There you go. All the best players do.
I remember it like it was yesterday. I was playing Michael Brooks, who was either the Scottish amateur champ at the time or around that time, and I was nervous, and I was 1 up and 2 to go. I remember it vividly. It was a 4-iron or a 5-iron. Would that be something like that?
Yeah.
I'm not the longest. You were probably, I don't know, feathering in an 8 or something, but I was hitting a 4 or 5. And I remember it was Wilson Bryson who played it. In fact, as the announcers on the T used to say, Drumpellier, as if it was Montpellier. Always used to make me laugh. But he played at Drumpy and was a really good player. Wilson was a Scottish internationalist, wasn't he? Yeah. And was a great player. And I always remember when I hit the shot, he used to adjust his specs all the time, Wilson, didn't he? That was his thing. And he said, "You've hit that, that's going in the bin." I remember his chat, "You've binned that." And sure enough, it did. It went in. And I can't remember ever being more excited on the golf course. That was brilliant. So that was Colville Park. But anyway, Sam used to, he had two unusual clubs. You know, when you're chatting after, you'd say, what did you hit at 16 today? I said, driving a 6-iron or whatever. And Sam used to say, what did you hit at 16, Sam? A 4-wood and a broom wedge. Because he had some kind of brown beryllium wedge, and he used to call it his broom wedge. It used to crack me up. So since the mid-90s, any copper club I had has been the broom wedge. But it's stolen. It's stolen from Sam, that patter, for sure.
Fantastic, loving that. So
I didn't realise he was at Colville.
Yeah.
So where did he play out of?
Bells Hill.
Bells Hill, the Bells Hill Bomber. That's right.
Yeah, and then he worked, and Sam can, when I see him, correct me. I think he worked at Carlisle Golf Club for quite a while, and then a couple other places, and then moved to Cobbles quite a while ago, actually.
Because Sam certainly he only played at home internationals for sure. He played.
Yeah, because he got to the final of the Scottish against a very good player from Powfoot, whose name escapes me.
Craig Hislop.
Yep.
Craig Hislop, yeah.
I think Sam played him at Carnoustie.
Ah, right, okay. I know Sam was a really good player, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's two good boys in Lanarkshire though. Craig, he won the Scottish, didn't he? He was a really good player. Tino got to the final 2 years in a row. I think he did.
Yeah, and then I don't know if he played in the final when he won. I'm pretty sure Stephen O'Hara from Cobbles was the guy that beat Cheeky the year after. That was up north somewhere. Might have been near Dunbar, actually.
Ruden Bay? Anyway, really testing the memories now, but Stevie O'Hara was a great player. He played a couple of home internationals that I played, I think, 98. Played with him in the Lynx Trophy one year, and he was brilliant.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what Stevie could have done if he could putt like I could putt. Because he was a hell of a ball striker, wasn't he?
I think that'd be the unstoppable golfer.
It might have been. No, he was brilliant. And I believe Paula, I don't know Paul as well. Paul's a bit younger than me, but he's meant to be a brilliant player as well. I know Michael Patterson that works with us at TrackMan here knows Paul well and says he's an exceptionally good player.
Yeah, I mean, we were blessed. I would use that word, Stevie, that we were blessed at Cobbles, and Stephen he is the older of the two brothers there, and there's another brother, Charlie. Stephen joined our club, and from memory, we had some very good golfers. But when Stephen joined, within 3-4 years, the handicaps in the team became a lot lower. It was as simple as that.
Yeah.
So he was genuinely like an inspiration to everybody. You could see this young guy coming along, very confident, lovely guy, Stevie. And his results then sort of had an impact on you. You're like, well, if a guy that I'm playing golf with, who's clearly very talented, is able to pull these results, and he's working his tail off in the practice area, guess what you need to go do? You need to go down the practice area yourself and stand beside him and either admire what he's doing or try and replicate at least the effort.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was genuinely, the word I would say is inspirational for what then transpired. So Stephen played Walker Cup, won the Scottish, he had Paul that came through, a phenomenal golfer, and then Ross Kellett as well. Ross played for Scotland.
That's right. Yeah.
Scotland Challenge Tour. So you're talking 3 really elite level golfers within like 6 years.
It's quite incredible how that happens. I know Kilmarnock Barassi had 3 or 4 Walker Cup players as well.
Yeah.
And even at Cardiff, it just having good players just begets having more good players. And I obviously played, Johnny King played, Russell Thornton played boys golf, Joe Hughes, who's now works at Club Champion in Glasgow. Yeah. He played boys golf. Guy Robert Taylor played boys golf for Scotland. We obviously had Keith McIntosh won the Scottish Am. Charlie Green played. Scott Henry latterly played out of Cardiff for a wee while. He won everything he looked at, didn't he?
Yeah, Scott was just phenomenal ball striker this year.
I actually spoke to him quite recently, and he's injury free.
Yeah,
so
I had him on the pod.
Oh, did you? So it'll be interesting to see, because he's a great player, and obviously Big Johnson's playing quite well, so that'll drag Scott along as well, trying to beat his younger brother, because he's churning out the victories, John, as well. So that'll be good. I'd like to say they're just right good guys, the two of them, aren't they? So you're always rooting for them every time they peg it up. That's for sure.
And you touched on, Stevie. You hadn't told me. God, I only found out by chance that you'd reached that milestone that allows you the opportunity to enter different events, I'll say.
Yeah.
So what does the future hold for Stevie Carmichael in terms of playing the amount of golf that I'm sure a lot of people would love you to be playing? What does that look like?
The answer is I don't know, because I can play it absolutely fine. I can get round most courses if you drop me on them in par, and I always find a way to get round. But I'll
point out, including the West Course at Wentworth, which would be a decent test to be putting yourself on.
It is a decent test, but I think it's different when you've got a card in your hand, isn't it? And I never suffered from that kind of. I was actually always better in tournaments than I was in. I could never get interested in practice rounds or bounce games. It was never for me. But so I always played better under the gun. So, but I don't know. I'm 50 now. I'm not 25, so I don't know what that looks like anymore. But what I do know is my game is not as good as it used to be. And what I can tell you is the boys that are doing that for Scotland just now are playing better than they did. So I've met Ronnie Clark a few times at the driving range. He practices at Great Western when I lived in Glasgow. And Ronnie is telling, I think Ronnie's early 60s now, and he's telling me that he's playing better, and his scores would show that he's playing better than he did when he was, in his mid-30s or 40s. But he must be phenomenally good now. But he works hard at it. He looks fit and well, and I know he goes to the guys at First Tee Fitness there and practices at the range at Great Western, and is loving it. Is absolutely loving it. And obviously Robert plays, and is Robert's a great player. Robert's been I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying, I think he's been a bit of an underachiever given how talented he is. He's been a phenomenally talented golfer for a long period of time, and is now getting his rewards. And again, looks, is in good nick, looks fit and well. Don't know if he could squeeze into his Scottish Youths blazer that he still hangs in his wardrobe, but I'm sure he'll have a good go. He's
the one with the picture with McGinley.
The very one.
I've seen that.
So I don't. He's got the Scottish Seniors blazer, and Brian Innes plays as well, who's a great player. Brian played for Scotland when I did as well, or maybe just a year after I stopped, but he was a great player. I'm sure he still is. Derek Payton's a brilliant player. I don't know Paul Moultrie, but I know he plays in the team and is a very good player at Royal Troon as well. So it's a high standard, and some of the guys who haven't transitioned into it yet. Neil McRae, who played for Scotland when I played. Neil is a phenomenally good golfer, and still churns it out, wins Glasgow Championships, and
played with Neil a couple of times.
Yeah, but he's not started playing on the seniors things yet. And Neil's a year older than me, so he's obviously been able to, but he doesn't seem to have done that yet. But I guess Ronnie and the guys will need the kind of second wave of guys to try and come through.
Bringing in the youth again.
That's right. But I'll be, you know what? I guess what I'll probably do is try and get my game in good enough shape where if I get lucky with some weather conditions and I get lucky with a venue, that I could maybe get through the senior open qualifying, because that's a one round thing. And I would like to try and do that, because why wouldn't you?
Well, a great story there is one of it was my maths teacher.
Kenny Gallagher?
No, Kenny, a guy called Johnny Johnson from Russia.
Right, because Kenny played as well, didn't he, from East Kilbride? Was he East
Kenny made
Kilbride?
it.
Yeah.
Kenny made it. And
Yeah.
Johnny Johnson, a good number of years before, he, as far as I understand, because I kind of know it from afar, he qualified for Royal Aberdeen, I'm going to say.
Right.
And found himself in the driving range beside Isaiah Aoki and Tom Watson.
Wow.
Who were, Tom Watson was one of his sort of favourite players when he was doing his thing. So, that's a great opportunity, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, I mean, because I'm sure they'll change it at some point, but as it currently stands, it's one round and you're in.
It is not, is it?
Aye. You just enter final qualifying and it's one and in. I think Robert just missed out by a shot last year, and as I said,
God.
if I get lucky if I get my game in good shape and get a wee bit lucky with the weather, because because I chip and putt well, I can get round in par when it's blowing an absolute twister. That was always like a superpower I had. So that would, if the moon's aligned, then I could do that. But
You
I'll
want
have to
to kind of half blowing hard in a tough track.
I want a rock hard
Stevie's your
golf
man.
course where the boys are having to lay up with 4 irons and I can hit a necky driver just next to them and then wedge it onto the green. That's the perfect scenario. Get the broom wedge fired up. So I would like to try that, but with regard to churning it out kind of every week, I don't know. I think I'm just at that stage. I mean, we've played a couple of times over the last few weeks. That's right up my street. See, like getting 4 of you out, and, but you're trying your best. But you know what? I mean, I think I hit my first or second shank ever the other day. That would normally have sent me into a meltdown, but instead I just picked my ball out of the woods and got on with it. And you're trying your best.
Got me back for capturing the exit stage right on camera by not even telling me your video in the heather after it. Thankfully, I don't know if that's thankfully, my 3-wood has not had a great record round Wentworth either time, although it almost saw the cellar, but that topping it on the 8th into the heather about 50 yards off the tee was not my finest moment.
It wasn't. And I tell you, the footage that I got of you chopping it out the heather would certainly have to have gone out after the watershed, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a couple of words in there that maybe wouldn't make the before 9 o'clock show, would it?
No, they would not. They would not. But it gets a bit juicy. The heather gets a bit juicy at this time.
You're not wrong. I mean, it's like, it's genuinely a foot deep.
Always remember.
Very healthy. I'll add as well. It's very healthy heather.
It's funny the wee things you pick up. I remember Davy Carrick, who played for Dumbartonshire and played at Douglas Park, and I played with him in one of my first ever, as Charlie Green used to call it, Edgar Trophy, the Edward Trophy at Gales. And I remember Davy Carrick saying to me, you can have a good lie in the heather, but don't get fooled by it. Get into it with a wedge and just get it back and play. And sure enough, me being 16 or 17, I can see it there. It's sitting up like a 2-pound cabbage, and I'm like, I'll get into it with a 4 iron. Next thing you know, I've moved it like 5 yards. And since that day on, literally for the next 35 years, I've been straight into the bag for the wedge.
What shots are for idiots?
Correct.
And heather requires the broom wedge. I think that's
Absolutely.
where we're going with that.
There's just no future in trying to hit it out of the heather. That's for sure. Because I'm not strong enough either. I can't hang on to it, so the club just folds like yours did the other day.
No joking aside, Stevie, when you go round, I mean, that is a treat of a lifetime for me going round Wentworth, clearly. But I think I had a good appreciation. I was lucky enough to carry for Paul in the BMW. I had a great time that week. I don't know about Paul having a film with me. I had the time of a lifetime, and I've got a great appreciation for his game in the pros. But until I landed on the golf course myself and then try to play the shots, clearly from tees that are well forward, it is mind-blowingly difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's the change. I think it's the change in elevation, to be honest. I mean, holes like 7, which our listeners might, they'll see next month when it's on. It's a kind of slight dog leg to the right. You hit down a hill and hit to a green that's raised. And I had it in my head from watching the tournament over the years that it was an iron and a wedge. And it's just not. You've got to hit it like 230 through the eye of a needle, and then you've got to hit this big towering shot with a 7, well, for me, it was like an 8 or 9 iron or something. And when you get up there, the green looks as if somebody's buried an elephant right in the middle of it. It's just, it's just like so difficult. These guys are just. One of the things that you said to me when we played that I need to give some thought to for talking to you in the podcast is what folk do if they want to turn pro. And I'm not, I used the phrase earlier on, I don't want to harsh anyone's buzz, but it's a reality slap. These guys are so good. They are so good. And we're seeing them when they're under pressure and they're playing. You should see what these guys practice like when they're just standing clipping away. I'm obviously, I've got a bit of an insight into it because I'm lucky enough to spend some time at events and things with my job, and these guys are hitting 25 irons and landing them on a beach towel. It is just they're just so good. They're so, and I know there's lots of differences to it, and some people take to the travel and some people don't, and there's a lot more than being able to hit the ball, but. Unless if you're a member of a normal kind of golf club and you've got aspirations to be a pro, unless you're just plodding it around in 7 and 8 under every single time, you're probably needing to make sure you're sticking in at school. I've taken a slight, obviously a different path, and I was a decent player. My game wasn't cut out to be able to go around Adair Manor and 65 or Paris National or these places. I didn't have the physical attributes of the ball flight to do that, but I was probably more of a flat track bully of kind of short, tricky courses was my raison d'etre. But I think I wasn't good enough, and I knew I wasn't, and I was smart enough to recognise that. I would stand on the driving range with, my best pal Gordon Sherry and think, have I got to beat this guy every week to try and make 11? And if I have, I don't think this is for me. So there was a conscious. Obviously, I had a good job and stuff, so it would have been given up quite a lot. But I think it's absolutely true that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right. If you don't think you can do it yourself, you're done. And I just never really believed that I knew my limits. I'd also peaked, so when I was playing international golf against, I was lucky enough to play against Francisco and Edoardo Molinari for Italy on the same day. But these guys were 17, 18 years younger than me. I think Francesco's probably 10 years younger than me, and Eduardo's 7 or 8 years, maybe more. These guys were on the ascendancy, and I was plateaued. I was kind of at that age. When did I play them? I was maybe 27, 28-year-old. My game was as good as it was ever getting. These guys were like still learning their trade, and I was, I could hold my own against them at that moment in time. But as their game's going, on an upward trajectory, mine's on the old ski slope down the way at some point. So
I think
there's a reality to it as well.
It's to me the part that's always amazing, and I see it with Paul. You land these guys on a golf course they've never seen, and 6 under's what they're looking at.
Yeah,
they're just. And apparently an Asian tour player had been out to where I play, which is Woldfield Park, and rocked up. Basically, I don't know if he's between tournaments, whatever, but just wanted a round, and casually strolls round in 6 under. Now, it's not the toughest golf course in the world, but it's still 7,000 yards for the back tees. Every par 5's over 580 yards, and the guy's just knocking out 6 under like it's fun. So that kind of level is just phenomenal.
Aye, it's mad. I know you were lucky enough, Shed, to play in the Pro-Am at Fox Hills. Did the boy not shoot 10 under there or something?
Just.
That's not an easy golf course, and certainly the course, the West at Wentworth's a tough course. You put the tees back. The boys are shooting. Did Tyrrell not shoot like 9 or 10 under or something? It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I was lucky enough to play with Brandon Grace at Foxhills, which is potentially a podcast episode itself, to be honest. But folk were sort of saying to me, "Oh, how's it going with the driving?" Because I had a decent distance, right?
You can give it a dig still, yeah.
But he's given me 50 yards at a start, and I'm not getting near him. And Brandon Grace isn't a big unit; he's a fit guy, and he just smashes it, and you go, "Wow, he is literally hitting that ball 330 like he's not even gone after it."
It's phenomenal. Obviously, as I said, my colleague Michael that does the TrackMan pro unit stuff in Scotland, he's telling me there's junior guys like 190 ball speed and stuff.
Yeah.
He says one of the fastest guys, I don't know the guy, but I know he's a very good player, is Bradley Neal from Blair County. He says that his ball speed is just off the charts, like 190 plus stuff. And he's a very good player as well. I think he won an event quite recently, I noticed. He shot crazy low scores. So it'd be nice to see him playing to his potential again, because he's obviously a great player. But the speed, but that's how they're learning now. I mean, I don't want to sound like old Father Time, but when I learned to play, it was, you learn to hit it a certain way and you keep it
People
in
are
play.
saying, what are you swinging so fast for? You need to slow it down.
Yeah,
literally saying you need to slow it down. You've got to time it better. All these, and I guess the equipment dictated that, right? And you're not talking about us, Stevie, playing in the 1910s. We're talking, alright, it's 1980s, 1990s, but equipment wasn't that bad.
No, I mean, but have you seen some of it though? I mean, genuinely, I remember.
I suppose, exactly, aye.
So the first time I saw a tailor-made burner driver would have been the Open in 1990. It's funny the things that stick in your head. I saw a flex twist driver, and it was Robert Gamez.
Aye.
He's the boy that held a 7-iron at Bay Hill to beat Norman in some event, wasn't it? And he had one, but I saw one recently, so I remember getting one of these, because everybody got them, didn't they? And you had the burner and maybe the tour spoon, or if you were a real baller, you had the brassy 2-wood, and that kind of stuff. Or the wee railer, that was the wee daddy as well. But I saw the driver recently. I remember getting the driver and thinking it was like cheating. How easy is this? It's amazing. It's about the same size as the ball. No, genuinely, I'm looking at the thing going, like, I can play. I can find the middle of my clubs more than not. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't play with that. I'm running the risk of missing the ball there and giving myself a showing up.
I couldn't play. When the Big Bertha came out and then the Great Big Bertha, I mean, that was like, the world had changed all of a sudden as well.
Aye. I mean, I used one of those Big Bertha drivers and loved it. But it's like a fairway wood. It just looks like a fairway wood now.
Absolutely.
It's I used I used a Callaway driver that I had painted cherry red, and it got nicknamed Kidman because it was a cheeky wee redhead. I got it painted to match a car I had at the time, so it was one of those ERC2s, but it was bright red.
Brilliant!
Used that, but it was good because nobody could steal it because it was mine, wasn't it? It would be easily identifiable.
The blind side of this is still going, right? The latest set of bats have arrived, and I'll say their containers look rather lovely. I like that gold. That gold looks digging.
To be honest, I was leaving the house the other day to come to play actually, and my partner doesn't know anything about golf at all, and I've got the bag, and just given that we don't have a visual here, I bought the bag that they used at Royal Troon for TaylorMade, which is the regal purple one with the gold accents, as you've seen. And just as I'm leaving the front gate of the house, she said, "Enjoy your game." I said, "Thanks very much." She said, "By the way, you look like Puff Daddy." I'm like, "Thanks very much." But there's method to it, because it's like wearing a white belt. If you turn up with that gear, you've got to bring your game, haven't you? You can't be shooting 83.
You can't be standing there and then play like a jump, right?
Yeah,
all the gear and the idea. That's not going to work.
So it focuses my mind. Folks, that's a nice bag. I think, right, I can't be topping off the first tee here. I've got to focus.
Brilliant. I guess,
Yeah,
and
no,
you touched on the pro part. One question, now that you're in the golf industry in terms of work, any advice for people who wanted to get into the golf industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's booming just now, isn't it? There's so many angles into it. You know, if you think of I mean, yeah, I don't know if you were at the Open this year, but anybody that goes to the Open, the scale of these things now. You know, almost every business is involved in golf. From a corporate hospitality point of view, the events are huge. You've obviously got tech businesses like TrackMan and some of these stat companies. You get everything. But the one thing I would say, my arrival into the industry was late in life.
Yeah.
And I love it. And what I didn't realise throughout my working life was I'm very well connected in the golf industry, because it's quite unusual that you don't turn pro. So to play amateur golf for a period of time, I've played amateur golf, right back to Lee Westwood, Paul Casey, these kind of guys back then, right through to, reasonably current day players, Richie Ramsey and stuff like that. So it spans a big area. I know a lot of people, and guys my age crop up all over the industry now. But the one thing I would say is playing golf helps, and there's no doubt it helps in every walk of life. So when I worked in finance, I used to get time with guys that I would never get time with in a boardroom. Because I was the guy who was like, Carmichael's good at golf, bring him along. We'll play him with this guy and he'll like that. I would get trotted out to play it. That I remember it vividly. I was maybe 21, 22 and just starting off, and I got trotted out to play at Loch Lomond. And at the time,
a disaster of a place to
go.
go.
I mean, because my boss was a member there, and I played with the guy who was the chief executive of Scottish and Southern Energy, SSE, the huge utility company. Now, this guy's a multi-million pound a year kind of, real big hitter in the financial world and in the city and stuff like that. I would never have got time with him. I'm just a wee guy. But because of the golf, suddenly you're not even his peer. You're the kind of main guy in the group because you're able to play good golf. And that's really powerful.
Changes the dynamic, doesn't it?
It totally changes the dynamic and the position of the relationship. And I often say that to a lot of the guys that work for TrackMan are golf pros.
Right.
And they're brilliant players. Because you're normal kind of guy in the street. I mean, we take it for granted. I mean, you're obviously a good player. You mix with other good players and you play. You forget that. The statistic's huge. It's like 90% of all golfers never break 100 or something. It's some crazy statistic. Yeah. So you forget, because you hunt in packs and you all play with people of the same standard, how impactful it is for normal golfers to play with people that can play.
Just even make really good contact.
Yeah, so
a decent number of times around.
It's a hugely beneficial thing in any walk of life, whether you're going to make it your career as a player, or whether you're going to just enhance your career by being decent at it. And I keep having that conversation with my boys. In fact, one of my boys, Harrison, phoned me yesterday to say, in fact, they were actually I've got twin boys, and they were complaining about whose Vokey wedge it was and all this kind of stuff. So that, to me, that's great, because they're interested suddenly again.
Yeah.
And they're playing a lot of golf, and I keep saying both my boys were on tennis scholarships at school. But they've played golf and they've been able to play golf, but the bugs never really got them. But it seems to be getting them now. They've just turned 20, and I'd love to see them just getting into it for all the people you meet and the advert. I mean, blessed is the word you used earlier. I have been. My career in golf has not, it's not made me a penny. I'm an amateur golfer, but I've had some of my best times on the golf course. I've got to see place. I mean, when's the wee guy from Cardiff going to go to Caracas? When's that going to happen in a normal life? The answer is it's not, is it? So, to be able to rely on your skill as a golfer to get you going halfway around the world, to go to Caracas is fantastic and stuff like that. And as I said, all my memories of team golf and the individual things they're not the ones that endure for me. It's the team ones that endure. Don't get me wrong, I'm proud that I won the gold medal, and I'm proud of that, of course I am. But I'm more proud of the fact that I put on, a Scottish Blaze I always wanted to do, and shared that experience with my friends, and did it with people that I enjoyed. That there's definitely a bond comes from that stuff. I know that sounds really corny, but when you've been in a team environment and you share a common goal, even guys you've not seen for a while. I met Stuart Wilson, who's the managing secretary at Blair Gowrie. Stuart and I played in a lot of teams together, and I saw him again recently, and it's properly like you've just not seen him for a day.
Yeah.
There's that bond that's formed when you play in these things together, and it's
people. What I've found, and I think for the people listening, they're probably thinking we've known each other for 30 years. Well, part of that's true. We met about 30 years ago through you playing, me caddying for someone, and I think that's the really nice thing about golf. And I guess it's really why I started the podcast, and it's called Linked by Golf. It's not necessarily about talking in depth about what's the technical things about golf and swings and all that. It is about the people and the stories, and I think golf really gives you that in your life. You've got those connections with different people you've played with. As you say, you might have played with them for 10 years, never seen them, and then suddenly you meet them and you're back. You've done the 25-year catch-up in 10 minutes, and it's like, right, here we go, we're on.
It's funny, I mean, a very extreme example of that is I was at the Live event at Valderrama recently, and I hadn't seen Lee Westwood since we played together in the last group at the British Youth in 1993.
Wow.
And he was walking towards me at the range, and I thought I need to say hello to him because I've not seen him for years. And it was amazing because I shook his hand, said hi Lee, and he said, "Oh, no, fine, who you are." It's like 31 years ago.
That's incredible.
And the guy's been the world number one and played. But there's definitely a bond from golf that you get. And I spoke to GMAC as well. I hadn't played with him since the World Pairs in 23 years ago. And he was, I remember we did this and that. And it's nuts. And you can always tell who's good guys and who's not by who pretends to remember you and who doesn't. That's something I've learned as well.
Well, they give it the old aye.
Yeah. And I met Justin Rose recently at Wentworth. I played with him at the British Amateur in '98, where Sergio won actually. I played 2 rounds with Justin, and I was talking to him as well. And it's nice, it's nice stuff like that. For me, it's nice because obviously the path that they've taken is hugely different to the path I've taken. But it's nice to just have that. It's just a kind of human connection, isn't it? Where you have a shared thing in your history. I mean, Lee obviously remembers fondly winning that event. He won it at Cantor. In fact, I looked it up recently, a couple of days ago, because I couldn't remember. But I think he won by like 8 shots or something. I was second, and Freddie Jacobson, the boy that played in Tours. Yeah, he was third.
He made the PGA Tour and everything.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was
big time. He was like one of those sort of cult heroes behind Parnevik. He started seeing on the PGA Tour.
He's probably the only guy I've seen that I wouldn't put all my money on me beating him at putting. He was a seriously good putter as well.
What was your line the other day, Stevie? You're going to have to like that line.
No, I'm going to have to fess up to it.
We're going to have to.
It was Ross's dad.
Going to have to get that out.
It was Ross's dad that said to me something about putting, and I said to him, and in fairness, you'll have to defend me here. It was firmly tongue in cheek, but I'd said to Roger, I've played all over the world. And I've played with some of the best players, and I'm the best putter I've ever seen. But in fairness, you could probably get a few folk on the phone that would go, aye, probably. Probably.
To be fair, after he took another putt, it was starting to set a sort of trend that had developed strongly over the last 2 games that I've seen you play.
But I'm just going on the basis that I'm not trying to miss them. I'm trying to hold them. So, you know what I mean? There's no, it's like, that's what you're meant to do, isn't it? At its most basic level, it shouldn't be all that difficult.
No.
But as I said, maybe it's different if there's a card in the hand. Time will tell.
We will see and we will find out, and that can be the next episode.
Watch this space. No, I'm going to play a bit more. As you know, I just had knee surgery about a month ago, and I'm feeling much better. I was struggling with that. I couldn't really play properly or anything, so I'm playing. I feel as if I can play properly now and enjoy it. So.
Just for the people listening, 300 in the back, 9 rounds Wentworth. Pretty decent showing, I would suggest.
I know, but I let a couple out the landing net at 17 and 18, didn't I? So there's still room for improvement. Still room for improvement.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Stevie, it's getting very late your time there, and I'm so appreciative of you coming on.
No problem. Thanks.
I just want to say thanks for coming on the podcast.
I never revisit these things, Ross. You know, you just don't think about it. It was only when you mentioned it, I thought, gee, what is that? It's interesting. And, I mean, I can't remember the last time I thought about my time at Cardress, or I even remembered why I'm good at bunkers, or I can't remember these things because you don't think about them day to day. Yeah. So it's nice to take a wee wander down memory lane sometimes. That's for sure. And I don't think there's any doubt at all that the older I get, the better I was in my head. There's no doubt at all. There's no doubt at all.
Apart from fun, you can't get any better than that. So
that's true. I'm certainly getting appreciation since I started playing again that golf's hard. You know, I managed to go through several years when I played of thinking, it's a 4-iron, you just whip it onto the green. So I've now realised it's not quite as easy as that. Golf's a bit harder than I remember it being, that's for sure. Started like miss-hitting it. Never used to miss-hit it. Now I'm like scubbing the ground and stuff. I'm like, good grief. This is not easy.
Welcome to reality, Stevie.
I know, but hey, that's what it's taken.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on, Stevie. You've been great with your time, and thanks so much for the invites to Wentworth. That is genuinely... Wentworth was a course for me as a wee boy. Watching the World Match Play, watching the BMW Championships, so that has really been like a proper bucket list item for me. I've done it twice in 2 weeks, and I can't be.
No, I mean, to be honest, it's been the same for me. I've obviously the thing that got me into golf really, or crystallised, it was the '84 Open at St Andrews with Seve, and there was that famous clip of Seve at the 17th at Wentworth where he says to the crowd, you know, can you stand still? I know you're nervous, but I am as well. And that's always stuck in my head. Every time I'm on that fairway, I just think...
I thought about it the other day. I did. I wasn't on the fairway, mind you, but I definitely thought about it.
I actually played with Jimmy Fleming. Do you know James Fleming? Jimmy Fleming from Lanarkshire. I played with Jimmy last year at Wentworth, and he was... Jimmy hits it miles, so he was having a go at the green in 2, and just as he was about to pull the trigger, and I was videoing him, he did the famous stand still, Stevie. I know you're nervous, but I'm too. It was great.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks so much. It's been fantastic, and I really appreciate it, Stevie. Thank you.
No problem. Nice to speak to you.
Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Stevie Carmichael. I want to say thanks to Stevie for coming on the show, and then also for helping me take care of a bucket list item by taking me to Wentworth. What an experience to play there. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to the podcast, and I'll have another episode out soon. Thank you.